Well, during the course of the news, we told you that an historic farewell unfolded on Saturday in the Vatican City as tens of thousands of mourners gathered at the St. Peter's Square for the funeral of Pope Francis, the first Latin American leader of the Catholic Church, who has now been laid to rest. And so to give more perspective to this, I'm joined by Marothi Mashashane, who is the president of South African National Christian Forum, in Ekenhof of southern part of Johannesburg, South Africa. Thank you so much for joining us on the news. Marothi, are you there?
I'm not sure if I'm audible.
Of course you are.
Thank you very much.
It's nice to have you around.
Thanks for having us.
So I'd like you to help us understand the inclusivity and the compassion exhibited by the late Pope Francis. How does that portray his legacy among the Catholic and, of course, the Christian community?
Indeed, the Pope's legacy of inclusivity in the Catholic Church, it's likely to face challenges, but may also find some continued momentum, especially through his successor, even if the successor could maybe try to move away or towards the traditionalist approach. But the level, the framework which the Pope have laid will make it completely difficult to reverse from what he have laid. And we believe that the legacy, though obviously will not be exactly because each and every Pope who comes is having his own approach, but the framework that he have laid will make it impossible to simply reverse it.
And do you think that Pope Francis' Latin American background actually influenced his papacy and helped him reach out to different communities all over the world?
I did not get your question correctly. You
I actually
a little bit far.
Okay, sorry about that. I was actually asking about the background of Pope Francis being the first Latin American Catholic leader. If that was some sort of an influence for the different churches in various communities, and if that also helped him in attaining his position as a pontiff.
Correctly so. As you are aware that he became a priest back in 1969, and he became an archbishop back in 1998. And then obviously he took the papacy in 2013. We believe that his dedication to social justice was deeply rooted in the Latin American context, like you have mentioned. The regions where he grew up, which was of a history of inequality, poverty, and political upheaval, greatly have influenced his perspective. And it is for that reason that he decided to take a style of redressing the inequality and speaking for the marginalized because of the background where he is from. So indeed, it had a great influence to him.
Well, you just talked about the fact that he advocated for the welfare of the poor and the marginalized. How do you think that the Christian community can maintain these values and carry on in his footsteps?
Yeah, well, correctly so. The church should advocate or continue with the advocacy for the poor and marginalized by acting as a voice for the voiceless, challenging the systematic injustice and promoting, obviously, the policies that address the roots causes of poverty. Like we saw it from him, he never kept quiet, irrespective of who he had to face or to challenge. But he was always identified with the marginalized. We cannot be, claim to stand for the poor or vulnerable if we keep quiet. So we need to stand up. We need to challenge any injustice, irrespective of where and which direction it comes off.
All right.
And furthermore, the church needs to empower the poor, even through education, job training, community development programs. In other words, we don't just advocate, but we also partake on addressing the inequality.
All right. Marothi, before I let you go, I'd like to find out what your perception is about the large turnouts at the late Pope Francis' funeral, and how hopeful you are that probably an African might step into that role.
Yeah, well, indeed, I mean, looking at more than 250,000 mourners that have attended, and that on its own, like it has been emphasized repeatedly, that he was the people's pope. So you can see that he was very close to the people, and the people comes to him when obviously he needed them the most, or when they needed him, he was always there. So he was identified with the people. That is why the people also came in numbers, because he followed the numbers of people. He assisted, he stood by the people. He was the Pope's people. And you can even look at his lifestyle. He never played to be a superior or a celebrity, if I may put it, but he came down to the level of the people. Hence, it is emphasized that he always identified himself with the marginalized. And it is for that reason that the turnout has become historic and has never been in the history of any.
Thank you so much, Marothi Mashashane, for sharing your thoughts with us, President of South African National Christian Forum. It was nice talking to you.